Okay, in the last video, I introduced what linear relationships were. So I introduced the idea of the equation y equals mx plus b, and I explained what the m and the b represented. So y equals mx plus b was the equation of a line. Okay, now m in this case, m was the slope. This represented how the line slanted. Okay, or I should say how much the line slanted and in which direction. And this b here is the y-intercept. This is the value that the line crosses through the y-axis. So if the y-intercept, if b was 2, let's say, then the line would cross at 2 on the y-axis. Okay, so that's essentially the equation for the line, and it's y equals mx plus b. Okay, so now I also gave you a very rough sketch in my last video on how to plot a line, and I said that the most important point was the y-intercept. Now, if I want to plot lines more accurately, okay, I would need a series of steps on how to do that. Okay, now the first step is, no surprise, to start at the y-intercept. Okay, so plot the y-intercept. The next part is more interesting. Okay, this has to do with the slope, with this value, the value in front of x. You have to rewrite that slope as a fraction. Okay, so rewrite it as a fraction if it's not a fraction already. So if you see the number in front of x as, let's say, a 2, then you'd have to rewrite that as 2 over 1. Now there's a reason for that. See, slope represents rise over run. This represents how the line goes up and how the line goes to the right, meaning it tells you how much the line slants. Okay, so if a line is very steep, then it has a certain amount this way and a certain amount this way. A line that's less slanted will have less going up and more going right. Okay, so the slope, which is really a fraction, tells you what's on the numerator and what's on the denominator. That is the slope. The slope is really a fraction. Okay, so slope is a fraction, and it tells you how much the line rises and how much the line runs, meaning how much the line goes this way, this is the rise, and how much the line goes this way. In other words, the slope tells you how much the line slants. Okay, if the line doesn't slant as much, that means the numerator is smaller than the denominator. Okay, this numerator is smaller than the denominator. But if the line is very steep, the numerator will beat the denominator. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. Let me give you an example. Example 1. Y equals 2x plus 1. What is the y-intercept here? The y-intercept is 1, whereas the slope is 2, or 2 over 1. What this tells me is go 2 up, go 1 right. Okay, this is convention. Now why does it say up and right? Well, it depends on the sign of these two numbers. So the sign on the 2 is a positive. Remember, if you don't see the sign, you assume it's a positive. And the sign on the 1 is also a positive then. So up and right are both positive, and down and left are both negative, okay? This might sound really confusing, but as soon as we do an example, things should get a lot easier. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to plot the y-intercept. So the y-intercept in this case is 1. That's where the line will cross the y-axis. So why don't we try that? Why don't we start by plotting the coordinate system, okay? And let's say that's 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 units, okay? The y-intercept is right there, okay? That is the y-intercept. So we're done step 1. Step 2, the slope. So the slope, I'm going to keep it in orange just because I don't want to confuse anybody. Slope is 2 over 1. So I'm going to go 2 up and 1 over. Okay? 2 up, 1 over. And I can go again. I can go 2 up and 1 over. And you see how I formed a line? That is how you'd plot a linear relationship. So this is y equals 2x plus 1. That's basically how you plot. You start with the y-intercept, dot it in. This was step 1. Step 2 has to do with the slope, and the slope will get you the next set of points, step 2. And then you just continue that process until you get more and more points. What you're looking at is around 4 or 5 points, and then you connect the dots with arrows, and that's it. Now, where does the negative come into play? Well, let's say this is example 1, okay? Let's say I have y equals negative 2x plus 1, and that's example 2. Well, in this case, y-intercept is, I should probably do this in orange again, or maybe blue. Y-intercept, in this case, is still 1, but the slope, you see, is negative 2 over 1, because the slope is negative 2. Now, this means I don't go up 2, I go down 2. So I go 1, 2, and 1 over. 1, 2, 1 over. And I connect. So the only difference with the negative is the direction of the line. Remember, when slope is positive, the line rises to the right. When the slope is negative, the line falls to the right. Okay, so that's where that comes from, and this is basically an introduction on how to plot lines more precisely, more accurately, using the slope and y-intercept. So again, let's go through this one more time. You start with the y-intercept, you plot it, then you rewrite the slope as a fraction, okay, and the fraction basically tells you how the line rises and how the line slants. So if you see a positive in the numerator, it means go up. If you see a negative, it means go down. So this is negative, this is positive. If it says in the denominator, if you have a negative, that means go left. If you have a positive, it means go right. And that's it. That's basically how you plot the line. And you just connect the dots all together. There you go. So in the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through some examples, some practice, because I think that would be useful. So I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye. Bye. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And follow me on Instagram at Marty Nicola. Link is in the description below. All right, see you guys. Peace.